This is IBM Museum. In this video, once again, I'm in front of what I call a tweener system. That's usually like a Windows XP level machine that has the ability to still get on the internet, get those reference and star diskettes, option diskettes for the older IBM PS2s. I call it a tweener because it's not quite a modern system, but it's newer. It's in between a modern system and those older PS2s that would often be incapable of even getting on the modern day internet. Maybe some of the older pages in very rare places. So the tweener systems can be of a benefit. I'm not using the system for anything this time around. I'm actually doing a little bit of effectively a little bit of maintenance on it, because as the ThinkCentre systems like this, or the systems produced by IBM, and they sold off that PC series to Lenovo in 2004, they can really lack for some of the drivers. Can be hard to find the support, BIOS updates and things like that for these systems. And I was aware that I had the multimedia controller with the bang on it, what they call the bang on it in Device Manager. It means just that yellow exclamation point that's flagging. And since I've gone through and I've loaded the driver, now I only have that one unknown device, so whatever that is, to figure out. I could go through and kind of evaluate the board, maybe try and figure out what that is, or if anybody knows, they can certainly chip in and comment. But the device driver I found that was flagged before as just a multimedia audio device was ultimately the SoundMAX integrated digital audio. And I did have the benefit of going to the old motherboard I pulled out of this. Remember, I pulled the whole tray out of this because this tray was doing something like overheating. It was just crashing. I haven't even checked on the thermal compound underneath the CPU. And these are the Pentium 4 hyper-threading CPUs. And so, they're very prone to get overheating and things like that. But I'd swapped out the entire tray just as a way to get the system functional for me. And the price wasn't too bad for that tray. And so I do have the benefit of putting the camcorder on it, kind of looking through, examining what the sound chip was on the motherboard. And it's that Analog Devices chip. It's that square chip that just right squat in the middle there. It's an AD1981B. And I kind of looked around on the internet. I first found actually from a IBM IntelliStation model of 2005 that had some drivers. And I saved that one. Then quickly on the heels of that, I found a page that Lenovo has up, and it was a 2008, and it was just marked as kind of the generic, more of the support for the chip, or this what they call the driver for that chip. And that 2008 version did not work. It was not able to find the correct hardware, so it didn't want to install. And I had to kind of fall back to that 2005. I was worried because it didn't identify this particular model. It was identifying IntelliStations, very much larger systems than these ThinkCentres. And even this particular ThinkCentre model, when I fire it up, and it's branded for IBM, and but it's got the little splash screens that come up for IBM. But then as the BIOS loads, it's been the BIOS has been updated, you do see the Lenovo, and that copyright from IBM and Lenovo is that right at that 2005 timeframe, a year after that PC division was sold off to Lenovo and all the stuff transferred. You know, the newer systems, they're pretty well supported on the Lenovo site. Some of the older systems, until, you know, last several years, were supported pretty well on the IBM site. But those things right in the middle, the systems right at that transition, can be a hard one to find drivers for. I think a lot of the ThinkPads and things like that, the transition was probably a little bit better. And that division was handed off a little bit later on, or the area of those systems, and the manufacturing was still keeping up in the U.S. At that point. So they do a little bit better. This one, I was just, you know, that it just had the items flagged of that multimedia audio device, and then this unknown device, whatever it is remaining. And I've gone through and I've installed the SoundMAX digital audio, and there's even, this is a relatively familiar icon that can be put on the tray bar for that SoundMAX devices. Just has that white triangle that points right on the background of a blue square. And it has a little driver in here, and what even kind of spurred me thinking on a little bit earlier, just the wild thing, it has this acoustic environment over on the right hand side, and I saw immediately the padded cell. They have an acoustical environment that's marked as pad cell, and I thought that's kind of crazy. It's almost like talking about you know, I had just the thing of the insane asylum or asylum of someone being in a padded cell, but they're maybe thinking they could have said maybe a padded room or a room that has more dampening. And I don't know if it's somebody just attempting to be hilarious or not. I mean, down lower, it does have, and this is almost more like a theme sort of thing too. It has stone room, in other words, where there could be echoes in that area, or auditorium being larger, concert hall, and also they have cave, which I thought was kind of interesting, and they do have like a hangar for a you know, I don't know, like an aircraft hangar or whatever. That's almost like an auditorium or a very big space. Stone corridor. They get down, they have alley and forest and city, mountains, quarry. I don't know if these are just, they strike me more as themes of, I don't know, you'd have necessarily an audio device that would be in that environment, or how these, how that environment is changed in this instance by selecting those themes. Parking lot, and they have sewer pipe and underwater. I mean, I thought padded room was the worst, but they've got sewer pipe and underwater. And underwater, in addition to the sewer pipe, I mean, I could expect a acoustical environment that goes through and is very echoey and everything else. But that just raises so much of more of a no, I mean, it's associated smells or something like that with by saying those. And this does have a and they do have adult and child things, and the adult probably boost up a little bit more of the treble response, just because an adult ear goes through and can lose that upper range frequency to their hearing. When I was tested years ago, I have on one ear I had where I was picking up the middle audio frequencies a little bit better on one side, and then picking up both bass and treble, oddly enough, in the other ear. And I mean, that was quite a long time ago that I was tested for that, but it'd be almost good to test me for how my hearing is now, and especially going through and having the tinnitus and things like that I can. Now this does have a testing area, and that's the other aspect. Is I wanted to pull out this. They call these 2.1 systems, where it's a subwoofer is the one, and with two of the satellite speakers left and right. And interesting enough, it doesn't even identify these as left and right at all. They do slightly differ. They do have the green, kind of a green LED at the bottom that lights up. And on the subwoofer, there is bass and treble controls that work. But I got confused because I didn't find a volume control right off the bat. And until I looked a little bit closer to see that on one of the satellite speakers, and I think it turns out that this is ultimately the right speaker. I don't think it's embossed anywhere that it's for the right hand side, but it does have these little chromed controls of minus on the left and plus on the right, and they didn't feel like they were working very well for me. And I expected a mechanical button where I would push down, like a momentary button that would change the to bring the volume up, because I'm not hearing the volume like I would expect from this system. Maybe in a quiet room it does all right, but there's even a review online that I found, and this is ultimately a JBL system, and there's a little bit of glow off of the front of that bigger the subwoofer. But this is called the Creature, and I think I have a Creature 2 system by the information I found. I mean, it looks the same, or maybe it's, the original Creature. It's not the Creature 3. They've changed the styling a little bit for the subwoofer and the speakers to where they actually have loops down here for the feet. I did even find a video online, about the volume changes as well. And I went through, I did find one video that opened it up just to kind of look down inside. And these ultimately are tied in. Let's see if I can get this on the webcam, or I get it just maybe on my... And they just have basically wires that come up to the plus and minus side. And it's ultimately, when I studied things, it's a capacitive touch, just like the lamps that you would touch the indicator just to get the volume up or down. And I'm not hearing much of I press that and I can hear where I bring up the volume, but it still doesn't bring it up as loud as what I thought it would be. And the interesting thing is I also had I found a video, and it's Chinese characters, and a lot of views and everything else, and had a lot of comments on there complimenting, the video maker. There's no subtitles. It's all demonstration, no spoken language, being probably of Chinese origin. But they were showing touching a battery terminal to the plus and minus to get to change, and it wasn't showing of any side where they were using the negative side touch to anything. They were just going through and touching the positive side. And I don't know for the potential in really the charge between the positive and negative side of a battery, of how that was actually going in there and being able to, I mean, they were doing a demo. They would show they'd press on the minus and the volume had to go down. They press on the plus and the volume had to go up. And I don't know. I've heard people that they have these devices that, or they have their model works fine for those volume adjustments better than than what I've seen here. But I don't know how the battery went through and did anything at all for testing the volume. Now in the SoundMAX there's a play a test noise, and it's just a white noise, and it rotates around, and that's why I say I'm able to estimate that this is the right hand speaker that has the controls just for the when the little rotating when the sound source symbol rotates around, it's louder in particular times when it's by the speaker, and so I'm able to kind of see that. And then there was a music loop as well that goes through and plays. As it goes through. And what I can do is I'll go through and I'll mute my mic. And then I'm turning on this microphone I have going to my ClearClick device. Just for a mic that's a little bit closer proximity. And I tried touching these in the wires with the unit open, and it's just a single wire that comes out, and see, that actually sounds more like it increased the volume. Now I have to work with that sound source too. I mean, I probably need to have it set to a particular position, not rotating around to see. But there's no indication of the volume at all for this, for these speakers once it leaves the system. And I have the system volume turned all the way up for this, so I don't really know. And it's designed for, I mean, it's got a little mini headphone jack. It's designed to be plugged in, not at a line level. The funny thing was, is the review I saw this was, and I have to make sure, I'll have to review the video to see, I'll go through and switch the microphones again. I just have to see how that audio, see if it was overwhelming during the time I was only sourcing from that, from the microphone. But, you know, I'm just not able to hear any change in the volume by going through those controls. And there's not anything that shows on this, you know, any indication otherwise of a volume level from this thing. The one thing I did notice too, and this may be where I'll have to do that source again, but I had this, and this thing is the power supply, and that's where it's marked with that creature indicator too. And this is, I mean, this is quite warm. And then when I went onto the bench, Let me switch mic for that again. And even the system's moving through a little bit of air. Okay. But you can just really hear the buzz when it's on that, I don't know if that metal bench with the void below just then amplifies that buzz. But I've got it kind of set off to the side on the foam padding, and that seems to make it so it's not as audible in this instance. But I was glad to find the sound driver for this this system. And that final step, I just have to go through and find what that remaining unknown device might happen to be. And I don't know if it gives any... And I don't know if that's a National Semiconductor ACP I. It looks like /NSC 110. But I may have to figure out what chipset that is. Let's look at the resources, or okay. And it shows an I/O range 0866 to 0867, and the IRQ is just a question mark, and that's probably in hexadecimal, of course. Maybe give a little bit more indication of figuring out what exactly that this is on generic bus. Indication of what that is. And as I say, a lot of the time the systems, if you can find the chipset driver or something else like that, it goes through and it's quickly able to install the drivers for the supported features on the motherboard. And I think I can't remember if I did the I know I do have the drivers for the Ethernet. It's a Broadcom Ethernet on here, and it's otherwise it's an Intel chipset. And I'm trying to think, I think I found the Intel chipset drivers for this, and I loaded those, so it may be nothing I have to worry about. I think I also had to find the video drivers, and that was probably about the easiest thing to find, knowing the Intel chipset. So this system, I mean, it's run a little bit better. It's run with sound now, and I went through and I was able to test that JBL system at 2.1 with the subwoofer and satellite speakers just to see, and I get some basic audio out of it too. So it's been a beneficial in that regard. But just thought it's one of the things I was working on today. What keyed it off was seeing that padded cell listing for the acoustical environment. I thought, well, I'll make a video. And so if you enjoyed this content, click on that like button. And by all means, subscribe to my channel if you have not done so already. But this is IBM Museum. That's all I have for now. Thank you.